Hey everyone, thanks for joining Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and in today's video I'm going to look at a brand new game currently on GameFound called Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. This is a new one by Modiphius, and this is going to be a different kind of video than I normally produce. It's been a while since I've done a impressions video where I give my thoughts and determine whether or not this is a game that I'm going to back on Kickstarter or GameFound, and so I figured this would be a good one as I had a chance to sit down with Chris from the Modiphius, and we got to play through the introductory scenario that is on Tabletop Simulator, which I believe everybody has access to. So if you're kind of on the ropes on this one and whether or not you want to back this title, that is a great way to check it out. That way you can kind of get into it and see if it's something that might line up for you. I also thought this would be a good video to make as I am not familiar with Elder Scrolls and Skyrim. I played way back in the day on one of the older Elder Scrolls, but I've never had a chance to play Skyrim, so I'm coming into this as a person that doesn't have that attachment to the video game, and I can just give you my thoughts on this, on whether or not this is a solid board game and one that you might want to add to your collection. Now, there is a couple of disclaimers with this. First off, I am not one for reviews, and these are just my opinions and my thoughts on this particular game and whether or not this is one that I'm considering backing. And again, that is based on just the information that is on the GameFound page, as well as my experience with the demo version of this. Now, obviously, I don't have a physical copy, and so there's always going to be concerns about quality and all that, but that's just like any other game that I work with that is a prototype. Always the prototypes aren't going to be to the level of a production quality game. So with those things out of the way, let's go ahead and move into this. So first off, let's talk a little bit about this particular game. So first off, my experience with it right away, I had a really great time with this one. I like narrative-driven adventure games. I think they are really cool, and they definitely add a lot of value and replayability to that. And right away with this one, there was two important things that I noticed with it. First off, every single decision you make is going to have consequences and has positives and negatives to it. So there's no light decisions usually. No matter where you're at and what you're doing, every decision you make carries weight with it. So whether you choose to go on the assigned adventure or if you go into a side quest, every one of those has repercussions, and they're going to add different elements to the game or take elements away from it, which is really cool, and it definitely gives you that replayability, at least that so far that I've seen, as consequences to certain things will have cards removed. So unlike a narrative book, these actually can be taken out of the game and set to the side, or however they want to do it, and those are going to have lasting consequences instead of having it in a book where obviously you're going to see all those different things right away, or it's set in stone how it's going to potentially play out. With the card system, again, you can take those elements out or put new elements in, and it's constantly changing and evolving as you play through the game, which is really cool. The other thing that is a heavy focus on this was the mitigation aspect. So no matter where you're at and what you're doing, based on if you're playing in combat or making tough decisions where you're having to roll dice, there's always different ways to mitigate those rolls. So if you're one of those players that has great rolls, then you're good and you'll have extra resources. Or if you're one of those players that always rolls terribly or has those bouts of bad luck where you're just like, man, this game is just torturous because there's no way I can alter those things and everything is luck based. With this one, you always have other options and ways that you can mitigate those dice, whether it's spending additional resources to roll extra dice. And those are decisions you're going to make after your initial roll. So you're always going to know where you stand before you choose to spend those extra things, which is nice, as some games that I've played in the past have required you to spend additional resources or things like that in anticipation that you might not be able to roll well or being able to mitigate certain aspects, where this one will allow you to make your rolls first, and then if you fail, you can choose whether or not you want to add those or just simply stick with the result. And then the amount of customization with this. I started off playing a character, and I don't remember the name of it, again, because I am not into the video game as much, so those things don't stick with me as well as normally, but it was a very tank-oriented character. I like playing defensive characters. And so just with the little bit that I got to experience in the game, right away I was able to make it through a dungeon where I started gaining experience and going through and making different decisions. Every time I attacked, I had different options to attack. I could either risk it for the harder rolls or harder symbols on the dice, or lower amount of symbols to try to do more damage, or I could do a basic swing where I was doing a little bit less damage, but it was more guaranteed that I was going to be successful. And of course, as always, I did not. The symbols that I needed were on about 50% of each die, and I constantly rolled everything but those symbols. And then once I actually started using the harder ones to get, that was when I was more successful. So again, it's just crazy how some of that stuff works. But that's one of the things that was really cool, was that I got to choose how I was able to approach each situation. Again, being able to mitigate some of those bad dice rolls by adding additional dice and spending some additional resources. And then just the amount of customization with my character right away. As I started getting into and handling certain things, I was able to improve my weapon by enchanting it, giving me a new ability. I could also upgrade the weapon to make it more powerful. I could do other things with my armor, and then being able to purchase and gain new items and armor. So really customizing my character. And then as I leveled up, I got to choose new skills that I could either tailor towards my character's play style, being able to use two-handed weapons or gaining different bonuses for that. Or I could have chosen other things where I could move into a different type of subclass with my character, being able to potentially use magic or being able to do other things. So no matter which character and which path you go down, there's still plenty of customization with the game that I experienced. Again, this is a prototype, so I can only judge it by so much, as it's not a full game yet, and some of the things they're still kind of working on, some of the finer details. So with that being said, this is definitely one that I am very interested in backing. It is one that I would love to sit down and play more. Right away after that session was done, I was like, oh man, I've only experienced a little bit of this, and so far it has been a great experience. I definitely could see sitting down and playing this, whether it was solo or with my gaming group. I love cooperative games, and this was one that definitely checked a lot of those boxes for me and definitely got me interested in learning more. And as with other games that I've played in the past, such as when I did my coverage of Bloodborne from Simon, that was another game that I had not played the video game with, and after playing the board game, I was like, I really want to know more about this, and so that led me into actually sitting down and playing a good portion of the video game. Unfortunately, just like with everything else, I don't have the time to do as much as I wish that I could, or as I used to back in the day when I wasn't making videos on YouTube. And so there's a little bit of a double-edged sword with that, where obviously I don't have enough time to play everything and trying to keep with the channel and all that, but I kind of digress there. So with that, again, on the negative side of things, or on the little unpositive side, with a game like this, they weren't able to produce a physical prototype, and it would have been cool to be able to handle that and kind of see, even from a prototype standpoint, what the quality of the miniatures were, as I'm a big miniatures guy, and just looking at the sculpts or the 3D renders on their their GameFound page, it is interesting to see. Like, I think that they look like they're going to be good quality. They are single pose miniatures. There's not a lot of multi-pose, and there's not a lot of or assembled models in there, so you're not getting quite as much of a dynamic pose out of some of those models. And then there's only a limited, each one of the types of model only has one or maybe two different sculpts, so you're only getting a little bit of variety. But again, you're not using these quite as much as a lot of other games, where these are more of a aesthetic kind of appeal, versus other games where you're actually interacting with miniatures more. So it really kind of depends, but again, as a miniatures guy, it would be cool to see them take that next step a little bit farther. But there is, depending upon how the production goes, appears to be a lot of good detail in these miniatures, and they should probably paint up pretty nice. But again, we'll have to wait and see with production. And of course, a lot of the other stuff, there's a few expansions that are added into this, so there's going to be a ton of replayability with this, and probably more than most people are ever going to play this. And they've also included a number of different modes, which is really cool. So depending upon these play styles that you have, they're trying to incorporate a lot of that. Obviously, there'll be a solo mode. There's going to be the fully cooperative mode that the main game is going to be about, but they're also introducing a roam mode where if you don't want to really mess with the story, you can just kind of do your own sandbox thing where you're going to be able to upgrade and compete with your friends to see who is able to upgrade and do the best or make their character the best and most powerful. And so there'll be different elements there where it's going to be a little bit of a give and take, where you obviously want to complete the overall arcing story, but you're also trying to do better than your fellow players. So they're trying to provide a lot of different options, which is always a good thing. Being able to play more to your player style is always a nice option. As I'm not as much of a competitive player, it is nice to see games that have that also offer a cooperative mode for players more that along my lines that just like to play games together and experience the camaraderie of a gaming group playing all in the same team. But again, of course, that is play style. So with that out of the way, like I said, this is one that I'm definitely looking at backing on GameFound. It has a lot of great content to it, and this is one that I would definitely love to obviously add to my collection, as well as being able to do more coverage on it. And this is something that I will be talking with Modiphius about to make sure that that is something that potentially happens in the future. Obviously, working on a teaching video for this would be really cool, and I think would definitely be something that's everybody would be interested in. But of course, let me know in the comments down below if that is something that you would like to see. I always loved hearing from you, and anything that you guys have questions on, or let me know what your thoughts are on it, or if you have any other opinions on this game. Is this one that you are looking at backing and adding to your collection? What are you excited about with this one, and what have you had a chance to play it on Tabletop Simulator yet as well? I'd love to start a conversation, so let me know in those comments down below. And with that, let's go ahead and wrap this up. So as always, thank you so much for taking time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I hope this helps in deciding whether or not this is one that you want to back on GameFound. And let me know again in those comments if this is useful to you, if there's other information in this video or that you would like to see in these types of videos, and if I should continue making them. Let me know in those comments down below. I love hearing feedback and getting both positive and negative criticism. Everything helps to make better videos so that you have the tools that you need to make those decisions on whether or not these are games that you want to add to your collection. Because of course we have limited resources. We all want to use them the most effectively, and none of us want to add another game to our wall of shame, which, ooh, yeah, too many. But as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. And until next time, I'll see you later.